Hello everyone. My name is Ju. Hope you all are doing well. In this video, we'll be discussing questions very similar to Azure AI-102 certification. We'll walk through the question, discuss each and every options in detail, and figure out the correct answer. So if you're preparing for AI-102 certification, feel free to watch the videos in this series. Now, a basic knowledge of Azure AI services will be helpful for you to understand these questions better. Now, the link to the training which I watched to prepare for the certification will be given in the description box below. This training was very helpful for me and it helped me to pass the exam in the very first attempt. I would highly recommend this training if you're preparing for Azure AI-102 certification. Now to the question. You plan to deploy a containerized text analytics sentiment analysis service on an Azure virtual machine using Docker. To run the container, you need to use the latest version of the text analytics sentiment analysis container. Configure the container to use your cognitive services endpoint URI. How should you complete the Docker run command? Select two options in the correct order. Following is the Docker run command. Now let us break down the question. What are the keywords present in the question? So it is regarding running a Docker container in a virtual machine. And the container which we have to run is the text analytics sentiment analysis container. So we have to use the latest version of the sentiment analysis container and we have to configure the container to use the cognitive services endpoint URI, which is this URI. For this requirement, how should we complete the Docker run command? That is the question. So now this is the Docker run command. So Docker run command is used to run a Docker container. Docker run -rm -it -p. So this -rm, in case you don't know, it is to remove the container once it is stopped. And -it is to get an interactive terminal. And -p is for port. Describes the port. So 5000:5000. The first is the container port and next is the host port. Then --memory. 8 GB. So the memory of the container should be 8 GB. --CPUs 1. So it should have 1 CPU. Then there is a blank. So in this blank, we should fill with the Docker image. Which image is used to run the container? That is what comes in this first blank. The next is Eula equal to accept, which is end user license agreement. So I have to accept the license agreement to run the container. Next is billing equal to, there is a blank. So here in the billing, you have to provide the endpoint URI. So the container can connect to the endpoint of your service to provide the billing. Next is API key equal to, you have to provide the API key for the container to connect to your sentiment analysis AI service. So how should we complete this Docker run command? Now let us get into the documentation. In this documentation, it explains how to install and run sentiment analysis containers. So if we scroll further down, run the container with Docker run, and here you can find the Docker run command. So it is the same command as seen in the question. So here it is the image. So this will come in the first blank. So what we need is a text analytics sentiment analysis container, and we have to pull that container image from MCR, which is Microsoft Container Registry, which hosts container images including Azure AI services container image. The next, here in the billing, you have to provide the endpoint URI. So endpoint URI, the endpoint for accessing the API, you can find it on your resources key and endpoint page on the Azure portal. So this is how you run the Docker command. So this will run a sentiment analysis container from the container image. It allocates 1 CPU and 8 GB of memory, exposes TCP port 5000 and allocates a sudo TTY for the container, automatically removes the container after it exits. That is -rm to remove the container. Now let us get back into the question. So what will come in the first blank? So is it text analytics / keyphrase container? Now that's not the container we want. So keyphrase container is used to extract key phrases from the given chunk of text. So that is not the container we need. The container we need is text analytics sentiment. That's the image we have to pull from Microsoft Container Registry. So here, the first blank, we have to fill it with this option. The next is billing equal to, we have to provide the endpoint URI. So here in the question clearly states the endpoint URI. So we have to connect to this endpoint. So that comes in the second blank. So these are the correct options. I'll provide the link to the documentation in the description box below. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.